1950s, a time of couture, media, and the opening of Disneyland, but also a time of great racial conflict.
Emmett was a 14-year-old boy visiting relatives in Money, Mississippi, from his hometown, Chicago, Illinois. His mother warned him to be on his best behavior as she had heard of the lynching of African Americans that took place in Mississippi.
On August 24th, 1955, Emmett showed a picture of a white girl to his cousins, claiming she was his girlfriend. His cousins took delight in this and dared him to get fresh with the store clerk, Miss Caroline Bryant. On August 28, 1955, a little after 2 a.m., two men pulled up to his great-uncle's house in a sedan. They knocked loudly on the door, shouting for Mose Wright, Emmett's great-uncle, to open the door. Mose opened the door to see Roy Bryant and his half-brother J.W. Milam holding an Army issue .45 pistol. The brothers demanded to see the one who had done the talking, referring to Emmett. The brothers busted into the home, woke up Emmett, and dragged him into their car.
His body was found in the Tallahatchie River 3 days later. It was barely recognizable as Emmett. The only way the body was identified was by his father's ring his mother gave to him before he left.
The day leading up to his murder was like any other. Emmett and some of his friends left church early and headed down to the local store. Caroline Bryant was working that night at the store. She remembers him as the boy she hadn't seen before. She said he came in while no one else was in the store. He came up to the counter and asked for some candy. When she reached out to give him the candy, he grabbed her hand and asked her out on a date. She was shocked and outraged. She left the store and went to her apartment.
Caroline decided not to mention the incident to her husband, knowing if any men found out about it, it would become a big deal and stir up trouble. Her husband, who was out on a trip to Texas at the time, returned home.
Emmett's life in Chicago was fairly good. He was a polite boy who worked hard to help out his mother. Emmett adored the White Sox in his neighborhood. He had many friends and became known as the leader by local parents. His family and friends remembered him as a fun-loving prankster who could always keep the peace. He and his friends hardly noticed the trouble in the South. Before Emmett left Mississippi, his mother warned him of things were different in the South.
Emmett's death soon became big news. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, as well as other civil rights organizations, expressed their anger of his murder.
The secretary of NAACP stated, "It would appear that the state of Mississippi has decided to maintain white supremacy by murdering children."
During the trial, Judge Swango asked the courtroom multiple times to use proper etiquette. The first witness called to stand was Mose Wright. He said his side of the story, explaining how Mr. Milam and Mr. Bryant showed up at his house. He was asked to point at Mr. Milam. The courtroom became hushed as he wondered if he would risk his life to tell the truth.
Mose pointed across the room at them, wanting justice to be served for Emmett. Moses later said that he could feel the blood boil in hundreds of white people as they sat glaring in the courtroom. "I wasn't exactly brave, and I wasn't exactly scared. I just want to see justice done."
Some of the most memorable moments of the trial were when Emmett's mother, Miss Bradley, said her testimony. The courtroom became silent as she took the stand to think what she was going through. Her son had disappeared, been found dead, and was sent to her in a casket. Despite this, she stayed calm and collected throughout the trial.
Emmett's mother sat facing the two men who had brutally beaten and slaughtered her son, as they were surrounded by their supporters. They only ignored her as she was questioned.
Miss Bryant was called up. Her testimony was enough to justify their murder, and they were found not guilty.
The Emmett Till murder was a huge factor in the civil rights movement. It raised awareness of the unequal treatment of colored people in the justice system. The Emmett Till murder was a huge factor in the civil rights movement. It raised awareness of the unequal of colored.
It raised awareness of the unequal of colored people.
You wrote that, so I don't even know.
I did.